I'm glad that the delay was minimal, and we're up and running. We're doing good.
Rule number 1, you just jinxed us, so we're going to be screwed the rest of the show. Thank you, Russ.
No.
I don't know when I think I texted you Saturday, Kelly, about being a guest on our stream. You are our first time guest on Stick the Plan podcast. We've had, who's our most frequent guest? Probably John Smith.
John Smith, John Smith.
Yeah.
John Smith, definitely.
Yeah. I think John thinks he's part of like a co-host of it or something.
I think Rob Steele's been on a couple times.
Sometimes John just pops in and we got to squeeze him on.
Yep.
Right? Did you know today Jimmy did that?
Yeah, but we didn't get him on.
No,
we got him out of here before.
He wants to get on, though.
We ignored him, and then he tried to jump in on our podcast money-making idea.
But he got real mad when I told him that I didn't want to be in business. I'm like, it doesn't sound like I want to be a part of this.
Kelly, you don't know, but we have a longtime member. His name's Jimmy Minnick. You might know him. And Jimmy is one of my best political bubs. But Jimmy is a piece of work. He's like too smart. The things you talk about, sometimes he gets around people and we talk about things. Some people might think he's one of the crazy person, too far extreme. But usually what Jimmy's talking about is correct.
Yeah.
It's
not that he's extreme, he's passionate.
He is passionate.
He is passionate.
How to roll it back.
I don't know what I'd do without Jimmy. He's my go-to for whether it's running around or bounce ideas off from. 2 years ago when we did the whole take over the party thing, they tried their best to keep Jimmy out.
Right.
And I saved Jimmy. I said, oh, no, we got to have Jimmy. And we got Jimmy in. And then this time, though, I didn't have to fight for Jimmy. Jimmy proved his worth to the new members, and thankfully for that. And we go back to Kelly. I think I told you before the stream. Kix here came from the Trump Force 47. He was part of the volunteers with them. Knocked hundreds and hundreds of doors. Scott McGraw found you somehow. How'd you end up finding us?
Actually, I just went to the Trump Force 47 website and applied to volunteer, and then Scott called me.
You ended up in Scott's office?
Yeah.
So, Kelly, you're familiar with Scott McGraw, right?
Yes. Yep. He used to be our chairman when I first got involved in the party.
Yep, and I didn't know that till I met Scott, but he told me the background a little bit. And tell me if you wouldn't agree with me a little bit here, Kelly. Scott McGraw, I think he spent 5 months here in Jackson. I don't know why they didn't put him in your Trump Force, the Kalamazoo Trump Force 47 district office.
Well, because my guy had like Berrien County, Allegan County, and so that would have probably been too far for Scott to go. And so they tried to divide it up by area.
So Scott had over a 2-hour drive to the Jackson district every day.
Wow.
He did that every single day. I got to tell you, and the reason why I brought this up, Scott is not the same type of Republican I am. But let me tell you, I learned so much from him. His work ethic is unbelievable. Like if I owned a business and I needed to hire a professional, he'd be the guy because he will do it to the T of the instructions. And him and I, most of the time, always got along. We had several heated conversations in his office. But at the end of the day, I am so glad he was here. I'm so glad I met him. I'm so glad he's a contact of mine. I just enjoyed it all. And I remember when I got the phone call, Kelly, you and I and John Smith and some others were having lunch in Coldwater. And you had just landed Trump Force 47 in Kalamazoo, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I told you, I'm waiting, it's between Jackson or Ann Arbor for this district one, and I really wanted the resources. And the phone rang while we were at lunch, and
That's
it was,
right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and we took the call. I took the call, and they said they were coming to Jackson. So when Trump Force 47, you shared your office space with them, correct?
Correct.
Right.
We have a 2,800 square foot office.
Oh.
Yeah, ours is 30
so-
by 30.
Yeah. Is it the room you're in right now, right?
It is. It is.
I can touch all the walls.
So we
but
have 2 separate offices that are within our office. And
See,
so
we need something like that.
yeah, we have a very large space that is our meeting room where we have a conference table, and then we have at least 50 chairs, and then we have 2 separate offices where the doors close, and in the back we actually have a call center, and we have a kitchen. So we got
Oh, wow.
very
a
lucky.
kitchen.
I know, right?
We got a table with a coffee maker. Does that count?
We do a lot with our little 30 by 30 area.
Before we get too far in, I gotta ask: is that a poodle?
It's a multi-poo.
Okay, we could just see like from her eyes up, and I was like, okay, I see the fur.
Uh,
That's your baby, huh?
Yeah,
He or
yeah,
she?
For sure. It's a boy.
well, he's a
actually
cutie
10.
pie.
Yeah, he's pretty cute. So I was afraid he was gonna bark. He
Is
was
that our
like,
first dog on the stream, Kevin?
I think so.
Yeah, all right. We should have more dogs on here. We haven't even had your dog
know,
on this
right?
stream.
No, my
Kevin.
dog's all over my other stream.
Well, your dog is here on
Look
your,
at him.
on your
Smiling.
shirt.
No,
He wants to be here. He's smiling.
He's
Oh.
looking out the window. That's where he keeps looking, is out the window, to see what's going on out there. So yes.
What's the dog's name?
His Oliver.
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 is the special guest today, guys.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have a nephew named Oliver.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Jackson's scenario is our GOP office is in a very large office complex called the Commonwealth Commerce Center, right on the edge of downtown Jackson. We've been here about a dozen years, and so what happened with the Trump Force 47 is I got with the leasing people here at the Commonwealth and said, listen, you know, they like me, they like us. I was like, listen, guys, I really got to land this Trump Force 47 people here, and they showed him, Scott McGraw, and myself this massive suite that I didn't
So
even
big.
know existed. I don't even. Kix, what do you think the square footage of that suite
Upstairs?
was?
1,700 at
Yeah,
least.
at least
It's huge, and it had several side offices, a big meeting room. We were able to bring in, all the.
It didn't have a
surrogate-
kitchen though.
It didn't have a
No.
kitchen.
It didn't have a kitchen.
We had Judy though make a mini kitchen out of one of them offices.
Yeah, of course.
Though. That's what Judy does. So they landed in that suite. We called it Trump Tower. It was on the 3rd floor of this office complex. It had a nice view of downtown Consumers Energy, and so we coined the phrase Trump Tower. But the first week he was here, I called Scott up. I said, Scott, why are we going to operate out of our office and you operate on the 3rd floor? Why don't we just we'll move upstairs with you? And he's like, please. So we shared the office space with Trump Force 47 for the 5 months. We had our own area. He had his own area. We were able to do our executive committee meetings up there, our Under the Oak Speaker Series up there, anything we wanted to do. Kevin and I did the podcast up there.
Yeah, it was
we had
nice.
this background up there.
So nice.
Yeah, we're spoiled. We've only, what's this, our 3rd week back in the 30 by 30?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Feels like 100.
So,
Did you like having that office space? I bet that you did.
so
Oh, it was nice. It was nice to be able to spread out a little bit. And
oh yeah, and going back to the learning curve, I've been around about 10 years, and each campaign that comes around, I'd be more involved. This was a real campaign. We had phone callers, we had people in and out picking up all them damn yard signs. We gave out, I think, 7,000 yard signs in Jackson County. But the door knockers, we had Judy up there making phone calls. She was like topping the state until they pissed her off. And it was well worth it. But when their lease was through November, 3-4 days after the campaign, they were out of there. They didn't need to be up there anymore. And we could use the space. But I don't want to go back to our little office. So I hit the Commonwealth Center up. Hey, what would it cost for us to keep this office? And she says, I've already got plans for it for another tenant. And we did have some people come through and look at it.
They must not like you that much.
Right.
Well,
Right.
so she hauls me down the hallway and she shows me another space, and I don't know. I haven't pulled the trigger on that other space yet. It's a lot more rent.
So that's a little bit about what's going on here with us. I want to know what's going on with you. What's been happening ever since the election season ended? What's on the horizon?
Let's go back further than that.
Oh, you
Let's
wanna go
pretend our
back?
viewers don't know anything.
They
Oh,
don't.
right. So
They
tell
don't
us
know.
about yourself.
Yeah. Who is Kelly Sackett?
Who are you?
Oh,
And what do you do?
Yes.
so I've been the chairwoman of the party here in Kalamazoo County for almost 2 years. Before that, I was the vice chair for a year, and that was when Scott McGraw moved into your county, or into a different county.
Right.
And so then our vice chair took over as chair. He asked me to step in as the vice chair position. And funny enough, I originally said no. And I had no desire in being in leadership whatsoever. And it ended up that the chair at the time, Tony Lawrence, after I told him no, he came back to me and said, I really need you to do this. I actually have cancer, and I don't know how long I'm going to be alive. And I said,
you guys just lost Tony here a couple months ago, correct?
We actually, we just lost him right before the election.
Yeah.
And so we were fortunate enough that he made it through his chairmanship, and then I took over as chair. And at our Lincoln dinner that we just had in the spring, we gave him our chairwoman award, and so I was super glad that we did that and honored him in that way. And it's pretty hard when the person that got you into this is no longer around. It was pretty rough for me for a little bit of time. And, my father passed away about 5 years ago. And so Tony was always kind of like a second dad to me. He came over to my house. I have an outdoor fountain that's by our pool, and there was a problem with it. He came over and fixed that for me. Or if I did a neighborhood sale, we have it every year. We would bring tables over for me. He just was always there for everybody. And so it's going to be a big void for him being gone.
I know. I didn't know him. I had heard of him, knew of him, and then I don't know. Did I read it somewhere that he passed? And I came up and said something to Scott. Of course, Scott already knew, and I could tell Scott. It affected Scott too.
Absolutely.
So that is sad. Kelly, prior to being asked to be in leadership of the Kalamazoo GOP, what did you do then? What got you there? I know, but
So I got involved. I started going to the meetings in 2020. Of course, after the election of 20, right, where I think we were all dismayed, and I figured it was time, right? I mean, it was time to get involved in the party, and what could I do? And then we went into COVID, and I actually started a large parent group called the Kalamazoo County Citizens United. And subsequently with that group, we raised money. We ended up suing 4 schools over their mask mandates. And our attorney was involved in other mask lawsuits as well. So Gull Lake, he's actually David Delaney, which is the attorney of the Iron Pig. And one of our mask lawsuits is actually still in the Michigan Supreme Court. And I believe one of his case with Dana Nessel is still in the Supreme Court as well. And you know what the number one thing was that I get asked about the mask lawsuits. Why are you still fighting those?
Well,
Why would
because it
you
might
take
come
that
back.
to That's right. Because there's nothing that's going to stop these people from doing it again.
No.
And the number one thing that they did to us is they took executive orders and they made them appear like they were law. And we fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And so the citizens of our state and of a lot of other states need to realize executive orders coming from your governor don't mean anything. And what is the definition of tyranny? It's when you have the executive branch that's creating the law, that's enforcing the law, right? And so we all know that we were under that, for how long. And I just said to myself, enough is enough. If we don't take a stand, we'll never be able to stand again. And so
That's what got me involved, actually.
Yeah, and I myself, I was involved before then, but I certainly lived that. And, so the state legislature was able to reverse that. Whitmer couldn't use executive orders anymore, but then she just weaponized her departments
that's right.
to do it, which to me was even worse. Having bureaucrats make those decisions, was unacceptable. And then, I'm glad there's people out there like you, and Kick says that's how he got involved here. I can look back, go back 6-8 years, and we seldom heard from school boards or concerns with school boards, and then that really heightened it, and the majority of the people, even the Jackson GOP, got their start with mask mandates primarily with schools and things like that, and what's going on at our school boards. So
we have to say one good thing came out of the whole crisis, right? Parents actually got a chance to see what was being taught to their kids.
Yeah.
Because for so long they just
Absolutely.
trusted the schools were going to do what they're going to do. Everything's good. But then they realized once that Band-Aid got ripped off because your kid was sitting next to you on the couch doing their homework, what was actually happening. And I think that opened a lot of people's eyes.
And it's funny how school boards still, to this day, with the pressure that they have on them from the exposure of parents starting to figure out what their children are getting taught and everything else. It's amazing to me around the state you still have school boards doing the same shit they used to do. It's changed. I know locally here in Jackson, the smaller school districts, they do their best with what the state provides for them. But it's amazing when I read something, I'm like, really? Did that school board just do that after all this pressure? It's amazing to me.
100%. And quite honestly, a lot of the larger school districts seem to have doubled down.
Yeah.
We just went through an election where they had 2 of their members up for re-election who recruited 2 people to run with them as a slate. And so, we have our same 2 that we got elected in 22 that are the minority on the school board. And they brought in new curriculum here called Fish Tank. Everybody's all up in arms over that. And of course, I went to speak about it last year. When I heard that they were looking at rolling this out to the schools, I said, I did some research. I went to the school board. I spoke on it, and it of course passed. And parents didn't say anything about it. Well, lo and behold, this fall when kids went back to school, of course now parents are all up in arms.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And,
Day late and a dollar short.
Well, and why are we, as a collective, not proactive? And as soon as we hear about it, we need to fight it. Fighting it now, while it's already instituted in our schools and has been rolled out, is too late. That's when it's too late. And quite frankly, we're going through where, like in middle school, they are removing all of our, what I would consider to be an advanced class. You take like ELA plus or regular ELA. Well, now they've removed ELA plus.
English language, correct?
so any child that would be in any type of advanced reading situation, they've taken that away. And I was able to get a copy of the internal communication within the school. And then obviously I had the external communication that the school had communicated to parents. And it was vastly different.
Do you think?
They,
I'm sorry.
within the school, just what they were talking about to each other was, we need equity. And you tell me, how do we get equity amongst hundreds of kids that are learning at different paces, that
Right.
their level of achievement is so different? And this is what they want to do across the board. They want equity.
Right.
And this has got to stop. I mean, we know what it's doing to kids. It's dumbing them down, right?
Absolutely.
We can see it in adults today that have already started to go through this. And if parents don't actually start to pay attention and start to fight against this, it's only a matter of time. They're now reassessing math here in Portage, and they will take away Math Plus next. And again, that will be in the name of equity. I just read an article last night about, math being racist. And, you tell me, how are a bunch of numbers racist, right?
Exactly.
But they literally believe that, kids that excel, that's not okay for everybody else. And
Do
so
you think that's because of when you look at a situation, let's say like the math, you just brought it up. People say math is racist. Common sense says absolutely not. So when the normal parent hears, oh, the school's trying to push this, do you believe that most people are like, oh, it'll never happen, and that's why they don't get involved until it's too late?
Probably. I mean, we've already discussed it. We're all busy, right? We're busy. How many households have both parents that are working? And we're running our kids from sporting event to what extracurricular activities. We don't have the time.
Right.
Once we actually sit down and take a look at something, or somebody raises the red flag and says, this isn't okay, at that point it's probably already too late. And we've sat idly by thinking that the schools had our children's best interest.
Right.
And the schools haven't had our children's best interest for years. I mean, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Right.
Look at why schools are K through 12. The individual that created that, like the 12 years of learning, is because he knew it took 12 years to indoctrinate somebody. And so this is what our education system is based on. It's based on indoctrination. And clearly when they get our kids going to college, that's only extra credit indoctrination.
All right. That's
And-
when they
and-
roll it in deeper. They get a little deeper into the
Because now you're paying for it.
right, and now they
And
can
so
twist you even more.
We're at that point not only paying our tax dollars to go towards, public schools, but then we're paying for our children to be in college while they're just further indoctrinating our kids. The number one thing that I can tell parents to help to combat this is to have open communication with your kids, whether they are elementary students, middle school. I have a high school student who's a senior, and then I have a junior in college. And do you know the number of times that my junior in college has come home and said to me some of the things that they've talked about in class? Quite frankly, for the most part, she hasn't encountered the DEI type of idiotic material. She came home and said to me one day, I can't believe that Canada did what they did to the truckers when they froze their bank accounts. She actually said to me, that's tyranny. And I said,
great.
that is
Good for her.
correct. And that was all because of her teacher. I was kind of floored. So, I know there are good teachers out there. There's good teachers out there everywhere. It's that as parents, we need to be more involved in the day-to-day, ongoing of what our children are learning, what's happening in their school systems, whether it be any level, elementary, middle school, high school, college. We have got to be involved. And once with my college student, we struggled with communicating early on, and now, I mean, she pretty much tells me everything, and it's key because that's the only time that, sorry, now you
It's
can
all
hear
right.
them
It's
bark.
okay.
That's the only way that we can combat this, and having it be shoved down our kids' throat is by, having discussion about it and how it's not okay. And I just I see it more and more, though. Like I said, math is racist.
It's insane.
And it's absurd to me. But until parents start to really take it serious, this is going to be our next epidemic. I'm telling you what. Because a lot of these schools are teaching kids to think that their parents are the enemy. And then, you look at the media, right? And plus, so you add in the media, and who's the person that told us about the fake news and all of what the media is, and the propaganda? It's President Trump. I mean,
Yeah,
when he
right.
started calling it fake news, but to me, that was a total awakening of everything for me. I like was involved in 16 working the elections and things like that. I just wasn't actively coming to meetings within the party. But when he started pointing out the news, what they're telling us, I mean, it was very easy to see how we were led down the road of COVID, right? Because they were feeding us everything that they wanted us to think and feel and believe.
Definitely.
And not, and they did it to us as adults. So this is why I know they're doing it to our children too.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And you think about the number of hours that children, where they're at, it's school. It's school.
So yeah, I've got in Jackson's largest school district is a very liberal school board. I think we've got one solid member, and their leader, not the chairman of the school board, but their leader is a former mayor of the city of Jackson, and he's quite powerful in the political world. His name's Derek Dobies. And we really thought when he stepped down from the city of Jackson mayor, he's going to run for state rep or state senate or something. And he mysteriously plopped on our school board, Jackson Public School Board. And I remember all of us thinking, what's he doing? Well, we know now what he's doing. And we have the issue now where they've got a DEI plan, but they don't really call it DEI.
No, because DEI is frowned upon. You got to use different words.
That's right. And then so we had one good school board candidate for that particular school board race. It's staggered. I think most of them are. And she worked her butt off. We got donations for her, door knockers, and she still got waxed in it. And so sometimes it depends on. I think she would have won in one of the smaller districts. I don't know. It's real hard. And at one point you're like, oh man, how much more effort are we going to put into the school district? And the reason why I say that is the office complex where our GOP office is. The building has recently been bought by actually he's from Canada, but he's big into charter schools. And there was a large daycare located within this building. And what attracted him to this building is, one, there was space for him to expand charter schools, and he wanted that daycare because he claims, and we haven't seen it yet, it's new, he claims he has a method to get 2- and 3-year-olds starting to read. Sounds great to me. But since he's bought this building and bought the daycare along with it, of course, this daycare accepts state money. If anybody pretty much can qualify for free daycare.
Right.
If you're going to school, if you're going to work, and all that. And I've since he's expanded that daycare, I've noticed parents picking up children or dropping off children, and they're in their slippers and bathrobe and hairnets, and it hit me. I go, these parents aren't going to work or going to school. They found an angle just to drop off their kid for the day. Now, maybe that atmosphere, maybe them being in that daycare, and if his staff are really doing what he claims he's out to try to do, maybe that's for the better. But it's just amazing to me, and you know that happens across the board, where your public schools or your schools in general are just a place to dump the kids for a while. I realize all of us live in communities. I know I do, to where the parents are going to work. Okay, but when we get out, like I said, the smaller school districts, we get in the larger ones. I think that's a problem.
I think it's in the smaller school districts too.
To a certain degree.
Teachers have become overpaid babysitters, unfortunately,
Absolutely.
and
that's the lack of involvement.
yeah, as
That's
Kelly
not
said,
fair.
yeah, it's not parents asking them, sitting down at dinner, going, "What did you learn today? How was school today?" That conversation has to be had,
Right.
and I'm sure Kelly can attest to teenagers and things like that. It's not easy to do, but you got, it's important.
I'll go back. I've been out of school 38 years, I think it is, and of course, it's worse now than it was then. But you know what? It started then. We were just talking before this stream. I struggled in math and reading, and
It was racist, is why.
yeah, I know it. But I was undiagnosed dyslexic. The word didn't exist. You're just stupid. You went to the slow math class and this and that. And once I got out of high school, I have a little brother that's not much older than my son Kevin. He was diagnosed with dyslexic. That's the first time I'd heard the term. My point to that is once I learned what dyslexia was, I taught myself how to overcome that. And but it just reminds me that the poor process was existing then. Just it's heightened it up so much even more. They were graduating kids like me just to get me out of the school district. You know what I mean? And they just took it to another level. You
Right.
know? Yeah. Now I wish we could go
have,
back to 1985. It'd be better than what we're dealing with now. Yeah.
No joke. Well, so here in Kalamazoo County, we have, Kalamazoo Public Schools, and their graduation rate is like 70%. And quite frankly,
Should it be 30?
how is that okay? How is it okay that they're only graduating 70%?
Is that
of their
from
students?
dropouts then, Kelly, though? That's from dropouts. 30% are dropping out. It's not like they didn't make it out of school. They dropped out, more likely.
Correct. They're not graduating, or
Right.
they're just not eligible to graduate. And I can't even imagine being a parent and your child not graduating from high school.
I literally
and
have nightmares
again,
about it.
It comes back to involvement. But how many of those parents have learning issues themselves?
Yeah.
Like you, Russ, I actually am a sight reader, not a phonetic reader.
Right.
Well, most kids today are taught phonetically, and I was never able to help my kids with that because I'm a sight reader. I never realized that I was a sight reader until I was an adult and I was at my kids' preschool, where this particular preschool taught the majority sight reading. And so my kids could memorize a book. They could read a book and they would have it memorized, but they couldn't take those words and use them in other books.
Oh.
Yep.
And so, and I kind of like you, I used to go to a special reading class when and I'm from Gobles, so a little small town, and we're similar age. They told me how lucky I was that I actually had a reading class like that I was able to go to, because most of the time kids like us that have trouble reading are labeled, oh, you're
Something's
the
wrong.
R word,
Right.
right?
That's where
Yeah,
I was
something's
labeled.
wrong with you.
I mean, even years after he graduated, they were like, "Oh yeah, he just can't read."
Yeah, and back to what you were saying too, parents almost have to go back to school themselves to help their kids. I mean,
Absolutely.
you could take a simple math.
How many parents today, don't have a college degree? Or how many parents today, again, work when their kids are home? I can tell you this. When my children were little, I worked. I was a regional marketing director for a health insurance company. I've always been in some type of sales. I worked for AT&T back in the day doing Yellow Page sales. And so I always worked, and I worked until my kids were older and getting to be in high school. And I tell you what, it's a heck of a lot more important to be home right now when they were in high
Right.
school versus when they were little kids, because I actually would drive my kids to school in the morning. I would pick them up every day. And I tell you what, the most valuable time that I would get with them would be when I was in the car.
Right.
Sure, you pick
And
them
I
up from
understand.
school, and that's a great opportunity to hear what happened in school that day.
Right.
Even if you wait 2 hours and try to get it at the dinner table, I don't think the conversation's as well as it would be right when you got them.
And they're trapped.
100%.
They can't go nowhere.
And I understand that not everybody is able to do that, but I tell you what, there's something to be said about the traditional family, and the mother being home more with the kids and actually being involved in their day-to-day lives. And because it's not like when we were kids and we could stay out on our bikes all day. I wouldn't feel comfortable with my kids not being home the majority of the day anymore. It's just the society that we live in isn't as safe as it was when we were kids. And I tell you what, that's the number one thing that I hope with this presidency is that we see a lot of these things changed. And our children is who are suffering, our grandchildren, when they come along for me. Our country, it's not what it was when we were growing up, and it certainly would be great
And nor
if it went back.
nor should it be or will it be, but we do need to get back to the basics. That I think Trump has a little bit of common sense of what that looks like.
Yeah, but how far back can you go? Like, she's talking about
Agreed.
having the mother at the home more, and I
Right,
agree.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
there
the
is no
nuclear
way.
family.
If you're
Yeah, but there's like no way that that's going to happen with the prices.
right,
You can't have a single income
if
anymore.
the economy
Correct.
is better, gets back better, we were on a good path of that his first 4 years, and to give a little wiggle room for maybe the mother or the father to, if they can't not work full time, maybe they work part time to be home. They keep, but then again, you got the society's changed such a degree now that parents, whether they're making 60 a year, 100 a year, 150 a year, they still want to work 2 jobs because they want more and more. So I don't know how we're ever going to break that. But I think back to, like, I wished I knew more of what the guy that bought the building that we're in right now, he made his money in the tech world and cashed out, and he's big into this charter school. That's great, but it makes me wonder what's his direction going to be on that. But you brought up something, Kelly.
I think he believes, like a lot of people, public school system is so out of whack, so disjointed.
And what's he
that
know,
the
though? He's
charter-
from Canada.
Yeah, but
That's why. Maybe he knows more than we do.
the,
Right.
the charter schools are going to be probably the wave of the future, as people are getting tired of dealing with these school boards. Charter schools are a little more controlled, and you can
As long as
actually-
you can afford them, or the government or somebody's still paying for them, he's going to rely on the state paying partially or some of that tuition, which isn't all that comfortable. But then again, how are normal children ever going to afford that particular charter school? But you said something, Kelly. When I see him, I'm going to say you need to consider classes for the parents, not to teach them parenting.
teach them math.
Teach them math.
You can't
teach
sit
them,
down and do
teach
math
them
like
how
you used to.
have a budget, gain a credit score. It's really, you got my mind thinking. As soon as I run into the guy, I'm going to say you need to probably
Right.
consider that.
I mean, people chuckled when I said math, but it's true. You can't sit down and do
That is
normal
true.
math. Now you have to do
It's
lattice math,
absolutely
and
true.
you have no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you show your kid the right way, because you're getting the right answer, but it's wrong because it's
See,
not
I
the
was
way we
lucky.
do it.
Kevin got pretty decent grades. He
I know, right?
He was smart in his own way. I didn't have to help him with his homework very much. I've got 3 sons. Dougie Dougie struggled like I did.
Yeah.
He got through. And Matt didn't make it.
No, he didn't make it.
Yeah, but
He made other choices.
yeah, I made other choices. It's funny though how, after I realized where my deficiency was in learning, and I learned to overcome it. I don't know if everybody gets that opportunity. John Smith's been on this stream a lot, and his whole big thing is stay in your lane. Well, I don't know where my lane is. Apparently, it's outside the normal education bounds. But if you could have tapped into that when I was in the high school, maybe things would have been even better for me. They're not recognizing where a student's excelling. Why is he dyslexic, and where are his strengths?
Well, that comes down to parent involvement, as we were just talking about.
Right.
Because I've seen where schools have offered these classes and they cancel them because no one shows up.
Oh, I agree.
Parent involvement. Is that lady dropping off that kid in her slippers stuff going to show up at 3:00 in the afternoon to do this parenting class?
I've seen it twice in a day.
I know, but is she going to show up for that parenting class?
No.
Exactly.
No, she's smoking blunts with her baby daddy or something, Did I say that?
Parental involvement. Well, we are all thinking it.
Oh. You know what? I'm glad we went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that was.
I really did, because that's important discussion.
And it shows that Kalamazoo and Jackson are having the same issues.
Wait, it's everywhere. Do you think
It's everywhere.
Do you think it's worse in bigger communities? Say, we've got 3 larger school districts, and the rest are very rural.
It absolutely is. Look at Chicago.
Kalamazoo's
Right.
somewhat similar. The county itself. Let's say you get up north in the rural. Do you think it's probably not as bad? I think you're selecting school board members that are a little better.
Well, you probably have. It all depends on if it's a blue leaning county
Yeah.
or a red leaning county.
Right.
And obviously Kalamazoo is a blue leaning county. You can take it to townships, and obviously all around us it's all red.
Yeah.
And so it's just going to depend. I think that you have to weigh it out. Obviously, I'm from a small school. I think I graduated in a class of 62. My son goes
56
to
in my
Portage
class.
Central,
72 in mine.
and he's in a class of 350 kids, and so you weigh it out, right? The advantages or the all of what his school is giving to him are things that my school didn't have. Even I don't think that they would have today. I realize things have evolved, but still. And so you weigh all of that out, and at some point I feel like as parents you get desensitized, and you just tend to put up with more because you feel like, well, my kid's getting a better education. But really, are they? And I think you have to weigh it out, right? Each individual is different, but it shouldn't even be a question anymore. We shouldn't even have to question that.
Right.
Is our child not getting the best education? It should just be a given. If our tax dollars are being paid, spent on that, and we have to question it at all, that's a problem. And until we as parents stand up and say no more, we need to take the school boards back. We need to get involved. We need to be involved in the classroom. I can tell you another thing that happened with COVID. They kicked the parents out of classrooms, right? So I haven't had an in-person conference for my son since he was in middle school.
Wow, they
And
don't do
he's
that
a-
anymore.
Well, they do it.
No,
I know people that.
Did you say
No,
do
it's
do?
all online.
I said do. Yes.
And
I had friends of
in
mine that have
Portage-
younger kids that were like, "Oh, I have to go to my parent-teacher conference," and that's why I asked the same question. I'm like, "They still do that?"
Yeah. My son's a teacher.
Yeah,
And he
no.
said that
So-
the parents don't come.
Oh.
I'm like,
when you don't step foot in the classroom, that to me is another red flag. Two things. I know in Portage there's a Black Lives Matter flag that hangs in one of the classrooms. I know that there's a gay pride flag that
Wow.
hangs in one of
Yeah.
the classrooms. And
Is there an
when
American
you-
flag?
No,
Right.
absolutely not.
yeah, they don't even say the Pledge of
And,
Allegiance anymore.
And I've went to the principal. I've went to the school board, and I've said, how is this acceptable that you allow a Black Lives Matter flag to hang in this classroom, and their response was, it's for inclusivity. And I said, how is that inclusive
It's
when
not
we
inclusive
know
to
that
everybody.
Black
Yeah,
Lives
it's
Matter
I was
exclusive
just going to
most.
say.
It's
is
exclusive.
a terrorist organization that hates police officers? What happens if one of the students' parent is a police officer? How is that inclusive for that student?
Yeah.
And so again, when they don't allow us in the classroom and we can't
You
see
should be able to
things
get
like
in the
that.
classroom anytime.
Yeah, no, and in high school, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, they lock the doors.
well,
You can't even walk in the
well,
doors.
And you know what I'm the most worried about is because the bookshelves that are in these classrooms, nobody's looking over the books that are there.
Yeah.
You get some progressive teacher who brings in whatever they want to bring in, and there's nobody that's going into that classroom and checking on those books.
No accountability.
Until
Right.
a parent raises a red flag about it.
Mhm.
And so I see this too much. And I was so involved in going to the meetings and with the parent group, and I mean I still am. I still run it, obviously, but it's almost time now though for a new person to kind of like pick up that torch and continue down the road with it, because my child's going to graduate.
Yeah.
And yes, I can still continue to fight, but if I don't have any access to even material that's coming home, I'm not the best one to be able to advocate for
Kelly,
something.
I coined the phrase here in Jackson. They got the phrase mama bears. I noticed here in Jackson, it's grandma bears. It's the grandmas going
I love
to
it.
the school board meetings because we go back to both parents are working. They're tired when they get
Yep.
home. They got to get dinner. My God, the Jackson GOP is full of a lot of mostly women my age, and they attend all that, and
Right.
the grandma bear
So-
movement.
So now that you pointed
That's
out
good.
everything that's like happening, right? And like you said, your children are moved on, you're older. What would you say for advice to the parents that are now trying to get involved? How would you advise them to make the most effective change in their schools?
Number one, go to the school board meetings, because if they're actually going to look at a new curriculum, or they're going to look at removing like Math Plus, they have to do a study on it. So when you know that they have to do a study, you get the dates when they're going to have like a where you can have open dialogue, because right now when you go to a school board meeting, you get 3 minutes to speak and they don't care what you're saying. They don't care. They don't have to answer you. It's you talking to a brick wall. You could be crying and they don't care.
Yeah,
Right.
So but if you hear what they're saying and you get the agenda and you're able to look at what they're discussing, you can usually glean a little bit from that and go, I just heard they're going to do an education study on, like right now going on in Portage, it's sex education. And one of the buzzwords in the information that was sent home was pornographic education. Well, why are we educating our kids on that at all, right?
Right, that's
but
crazy.
They feel like it's an epidemic and they need to talk to kids about it. But I think that most responsible parents feel that that is their job to speak to their kids about it. But that's the key right there. I mean, I just hit the nail on the head. And it's not most, but there are a lot of parents that are not responsible. There are
Right.
a lot of parents that are not involved. And so they would never have that conversation with a student. So
Right.
then the schools feel that it is their responsibility to have that conversation. And the rest of us parents that are involved are like, hell no.
I
That
agree.
gives me like full body cringe, right? And so that's therein lies the problem. Parents are too busy. They are not actively involved in their children's lives. They don't know what they're being taught. And then the school feels like they have to pick up the slack and,
Right.
and be that extra arm of parenting.
Well-
And it's overreach. It's absolute and utter overreach.
Based on that, I have a question on something you said earlier. You mentioned how teachers will bring in books, right? And you don't know what they
Yeah.
have on their shelves. Is there not some kind of checks and balances? Aren't they supposed to get approval from like someone so that you know what those
No.
individual
Don't
teachers
be-
are bringing in?
Don't be silly, Kicks.
I'm
Come
just
on.
saying, common
No.
sense, right?
Right. And there absolutely is not.
You're being a
it's
silly
the
butt.
same.
Somebody's got to play
it's-
devil's advocate.
Even their lesson plans from a weekly basis, a lot of times those are not looked at, and so it's easy for a teacher to get away with teaching the DEI type of stuff because who's looking at their lessons plans? Think about
Right.
the number of teachers in a school and who's the person that looks those over on a weekly basis.
So then it sounds to me like to make a change, it's beyond just voting people onto your school board. It's about being able to
Absolutely.
get inside those classrooms and hold each individual teacher responsible for what they're doing
I'm going to expand on that.
and be able to remove them if necessary.
Yeah, but you got to remember, too, giving parents the benefit of the doubt here. Being a person that's been active in township meetings, county meetings, and I'm not a big school board meeting person, but, we just talked about this in one of our meetings. Making that first step to the school board meeting sometimes takes a little courage. You don't know what to expect.
Right.
And so we've been advocating, get a hold of one of us. We can go help you go to your first meeting. You don't have to take the 3-minute comment period
don't-
out the gate. Get
no, you don't
comfortable.
have to speak.
But I'll tell you,
Just
once
go.
you get involved, I know this from the township especially. Most school board meetings are an hour long, if that. Okay. And once you go and then you start getting in the groove of what their conversation is, you're not as blind the next month and the following month. It really is something that you have to step into. It doesn't hurt at all. It's more comfortable than what you think. And so I do think there's probably a lot of parents that want to get involved, but they keep using that excuse, I don't know how to.
So it's power in numbers is what you're saying.
And I think
So-
I think we're ahead of the curve here in saying that it's actually simpler than even going to a school board meeting. Talk to your kids.
Well, yeah.
Talk
Because
to your
you
kids.
know what's
Well,
going on in your school by talking to your kids. You can do it in the comfort of your own home, doing it that way. And then if you decide to have to go to the school board, then you go to the school board. But you would never know.
A couple of things. So number one, in Portage, they have Zoom. They Zoom their school board meetings, so you can actually watch it from your
That's a
home.
good start.
And number two, in high school,
Kelly, I
they
have a
send
question.
out-
How many people are participating in that Zoom? 5?
It's
Yeah,
not a lot.
that's the sad part.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, newsletters. So newsletters
Yeah.
come home on a weekly basis, and usually there'll be some type of a clue in there if there's something that you need to pay closer attention to as well. Again, it just comes down to being actively involved and present in your child's life. And if you're a single parent, if you're a dual working family, and that's the grandparent, you know what? More power to the grandparents. Because what do they say? It takes a village, right? This
Right.
isn't just about us any longer. It's where you live. It could be your neighborhood. It could be your street that you live on. We all need to parent together sometimes. We all need to talk about this. But the number one thing that I would say is to get involved. Again, go through what your kids bring home from school, the lessons. Take a look at their schoolwork. Have that dialogue with them so that you can get a better feeling of where the learning is at each of their schools.
Kelly, I'm going to try to segue into just talking about positive things or a little bit about Kalamazoo GOP. How I'm going to segue this, we all the counties put together a nonpartisan voter guide, and I read your guys' nonpartisan voter guide, and it was very, very extensive, way more than ours was. You guys, of course, though, went into endorsing or picking candidates that had Republican in front of their name. It wasn't just nonpartisan. Where we stayed away from that, we're like, hey, if it's R in front of their name, that's who you should vote for. But I will say I loved your guys' partisan voter guide. Jackson's was, I had a new issues, nominations, candidate recruitment committee going back, I was almost labeled as establishment. How I became chair 2 years ago is beyond me. But I had new people in that role, and I don't think they understood how that worked. But they ended up putting one together, and it was adequate. But where the sad part is we could only make recommendations for 3 school districts in all of Jackson County, and we can make no recommendations for the Jackson College Board. And now, gosh, you think right when you know everything, I've been the treasurer, then the chair, and now I'm a treasurer again, or the chairman again. You think that you would know this, but I thought, man, we've got our hands full because I want to be able to recommend candidates in every single school district and that Jackson College Board. My phone was ringing.
So were they able to in Kalamazoo?
Yeah, you guys didn't you hit most of your school districts?
So then what's the difference?
We
Why
did,
can they and we can't?
And township. We did townships. We did the KVCC, which is Kalamazoo Valley Community College.
Right.
And we actually went so far as to find a guy to run as a write-in for KVCC, and he won.
Nice.
He
Oh,
won.
really
Wow.
nice.
So
That's nice.
So the question
As a
is, how are
write-in.
they able to do that and we're not?
So apparently they have a better chairman.
Or they have
chairperson.
Well, are you not the chairperson?
No, we can put a lot of blame wherever we can put blame.
I'm not looking at making blame.
That
I'm
was,
saying
that was a political answer.
I'm not saying anything about blame. I'm saying how do we do what they did? Because
Okay.
obviously,
Listen, we used to provide
doing
that.
it.
We used to provide that, and as a county chair, and only Kelly could probably agree to this. You wear a lot of hats, and you got a
yes.
lot of lines out all the time. You're putting out one fire to another fire, and it's just got a lot going on. And it takes a team around you of
Yeah.
good people that want to work and people that know how to get the particular job done. So, and I'm going to ask you this in a minute. I was just reelected for a second term, so I'm looking now. We call it INCR. It's Issues, Nominations, Candidate Recruitment Committee. That's the committee that would put that together to aggressively find candidates for all these positions. I had a new group that really didn't know what direction to go, and I would attend as many of their meetings as possible and steer them in a certain direction, and it didn't get there. And I'm not blaming those people, but I went back. I says, I'm putting someone back in there that ran it for years. The problem is he was labeled, he's establishment. He's a county commissioner, but he ran our INCR for a decade, and that would have always been done. And the minute I became chair, I already knew who I was going to put in subcommittees, and I changed things around, trying to build that team. I did catch heat for putting that individual in charge of that subcommittee, but I was like, listen, you all can be a member of that subcommittee. So you take the members of the subcommittee prior, the former chair says, I want to be a member of it. I don't want to be the chair, but we needed better leadership there.
so you're saying that because the leadership and they couldn't get on the same page.
I don't think they knew what they were doing.
But what I'm getting at is whether they're picking the person or not, right? Kalamazoo is able to endorse people for the colleges and for everything else.
Right.
There should be no excuse why Jackson can't. And if there's
Well, that happened, Kicks.
But I'm just saying, if there's an excuse on why they can't, then the people that are coming up with those excuses need to maybe take a back seat for a minute and let the people that want to move forward do the
But
job.
if people don't run, then you can't endorse people that don't run.
The only thing I feel I can do with the second term, and Kelly, help me if I'm way off on this or not. When I first became chairman, the former administration never included anybody. They really wanted to run everything like behind the scenes, and the chairman made way too many decisions without the executive committee approval. And I was one of those people that always fought about that. But now you spend 2 years at a chair, I understood why they did that to a certain degree. When you try to make a decision with 40 people on an executive committee, you're rarely going to make a decision. There's too many opinions.
Right.
And that's why if you follow the bylaws exactly the way they're written, the leadership needs to lead. I don't want to exclude people, but you can't include everybody on
Right.
every single decision.
I agree.
What's your opinion of that, Kelly?
100%. But so more than that, I don't even have a committee that does that. I mean, essentially we have a template and we fill the template out every time.
I bet
And
you we had a
so-
template we didn't know about.
So you don't have a committee at all that takes care of that. You just say, here's
not
the
that-
template, here's the people
No,
that fall
no.
into that category, and that's what you do?
Kelly, you don't have a candidate
No.
recruitment committee at all?
We do.
Okay.
But I mean, creating the voter guide, I would feel like that's an after the fact thing. Quite frankly.
Yeah, but your
we
candidate
have,
recruitment people would recommend those candidates. Whoever makes the guide, it could be
Yeah.
whoever's good at making guides,
But I mean, at this point, our candidates were already selected or selected themselves, right?
Yeah, maybe that's where they're
And
fortunate.
we're just going to get behind any Republican that's running, and that's what we did.
So that's
and
where-
So that's why.
So basically, if
The-
there was an
the
R
voter
on their
guide
name,
then-
you're putting them on your guide.
So we could probably, you can do a voter guide any way you want. So Kalamazoo and many counties included everybody that they recommend in every single office, okay? The Jackson one, we used just a nonpartisan, and some other counties did that too. But we couldn't even complete the nonpartisans. You see what I'm saying? We didn't
Oh.
even have candidates for some of the school districts to even recommend. And to me,
Yeah, we didn't.
that was
And
a
I would
failure.
agree. And I would agree with that. And it's hard for school districts to know. I mean, that we took it as far as to look at township races this year.
We did
That's
some.
why ours was two pages. But quite frankly, we have to stop assuming that everybody thinks the way that we do.
Right.
Because 90% of our voters don't know who to vote for. I mean,
They
why
don't.
do you think our Supreme Court justice candidates did so bad? If only we were handing out a sheet that had at the polls that had who to vote for Supreme Court, because how does Trump win, or how does Trump get X amount of votes and these people don't get the same amount of
So-
votes?
Exactly,
It's not
exactly.
because somebody didn't like them, it's because they didn't know them.
The Republican message was pretty strong. You had the Trump message, you had a Republican message. Of course, that's the coattails of Trump. Look at the state house. Trump won. Poll along the state house. We can go on forever about what happened to Mike Rogers.
Well, Russ, I'll actually now, because remember I ran for the Michigan House.
That's right. I forgot. I'm sorry.
So I analyzed my race, so 34 precincts, and I outperformed Trump in 31 out of 34 precincts.
Wow.
And Bill Huizenga outperformed both of us. So we had Bill Huizenga, then myself, then Trump, and then Mike Rogers. So Trump might have brought more people out to the polls, but we still had more people vote for us than voted for him. But then to see the disparity between Mike Rogers and even Trump, right?
Right.
And obviously I didn't look at it the whole way down. I mean, I'm just simply sitting there comparing numbers, right? And it was startling for me to see the number of people that didn't vote for Mike Rogers. I mean, we know that Republicans didn't vote for him, and we can debate about that all day long.
Yep.
But you want to look at Allegan County and look at their numbers. I believe there were 10,000 people that voted for Trump that didn't vote for Mike Rogers.
So, I went through a big issue here in Jackson. I'm sure a lot of county GOPs did too. Even in leadership, but all of them. no way to Rogers, I will never vote, and to the point to where they were going to even speak out against Rogers, and
Okay.
I
Well,
completely
so
understand. But
our bylaws, if you're on our executive committee,
That's-
our bylaws do, if you speak out about a candidate that wins the primary,
Right.
then you should be removed from your position.
So
because as Republicans, we basically take an oath, and if you're in Republican leadership,
I'm all over
that
this.
you will get behind who wins the primary, and when and you know what did President Trump say to us? He said, "I need Mike Rogers in office."
That's right.
So right now, everybody's in love with Kash Patel, but if Kash Patel doesn't get confirmed, guess what? That very well could be that vote that we needed in the Senate.
Good point.
Right.
So, Kelly, what I told members, I'm a Republican. I belong to the Republican Party, and no, I was not a Mike Rogers fan throughout the primary. I always tell them, I'll fight like hell for the person you want in your primary, but once the primary is over, as a Republican, being a member of the Republican Party, you have to circle the wagon and support the nominee. Now,
Unfortunately, that's not how Republicans
well,
vote. A
now,
lot of them vote how they feel, not party lines.
I get it. I was six. We don't have that in our bylaws. You can't speak out about the Republican nominee. But they understood what I was saying, and those people that were screaming that during the primaries, they did not speak out against Rogers. What they did, though, they did not vote for Rogers, and that's where that's the position we're at now.
So can we just take a step back and go? Mike Rogers would still be 100 times better than Alyssa Slack.
You think?
absolutely.
I've said it over and over.
This seat hasn't been open for 20 years because Stabenow was in it for 20 or more years, and it's not going to come open again for that number of years.
Exactly.
And so we shot ourselves in the foot.
It's so hard to take out an incumbent in a U.S. Senate race.
Yes.
Right.
You know,
And
We
quite
completely
frankly,
cut our nose off
over-
to spite our face.
You know, last night somebody said to me, well, you are a Rogers fan. And I said, by no means was I
Right.
a Rogers fan. But you know what? I still voted for him because he's still 100 times better than Alyssa Slotkin.
Right.
And the minute that we lose that seat, the chances of us getting it back or there being an open seat for another 20 years is slim to none. And so I'm a party person. I
Yeah.
will always put the party over my own personal feelings because it's the right thing to do for not only my county, my state, my country, and people need to get into that way of thinking. And when President Trump asked us to vote for somebody, why don't we actually consider it? I get that he'll endorse Matt DeCurno for state party chair or things like that. This is a very critical. The Senate is who approves these picks. And
Yeah.
if people want those people to get confirmed in the Senate, and we're one vote short, well, they can pat themselves right on the back. And that's doing a disservice to all of us in this state by not voting for somebody.
You know, we have a scenario here in Jackson. Our state representative Kathy Schmaltz, and Kevin and I, and I'm sure Kix too. We personally really like Kathy. She's wonderful people. She's a great community person, but she has a horrible Republican voting record in the state house, and she is in a -2 Democratic district. Okay, but she was the incumbent, and she worked her butt off to secure her second term and won. But you know, I've had a lot of, and I want to know what you feel about this. I've had a lot of discussions with very important people around the state, other state reps, and people that I respect, saying, you know, behind the scenes, you can't. That voting record is unacceptable. So-and-so's in a 50-50 district, and they have a better voting record, and they go at things different. I think some 50-50 or below 50-50 districts are different than the next.
Absolutely.
And if you take
100%.
Yes, right. You take Kathy Smokes, for example. She worked her district the best she knew the constituents of her district. She really did. And when she's in Lansing, yes, there's been votes. I'm like, damn it, Kathy, I wish you wouldn't have done that. I'm having a hard time having your back on this. But that's what it takes. And it goes back to, and we had some people that wouldn't help Schmaltz in her general election race. I'm like, well, it's this or the Democrat, extreme Democrat.
talk
Yeah, that
about
Democrat.
topic, those people that didn't support her because of her voting record, to them, her voting record makes her just like a Democrat.
Well, here's the
So
thing.
that's the bottom line. When she votes against what they consider to be the Republican line,
Right.
then she's voting Democrat, so they're not going to support her. You can't change a person's mind
So,
when they look at it that
But you
way.
don't want to elect a Democrat.
By not supporting her, then they're electing the Democrat.
That's right.
And we just went through 2 years of hell in our state.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
with
I'm not
no checks and
disagreeing. I'm just putting it
balances.
out there that they look
No,
at
but
voting for her
this
as
is
voting for
where-
the Democrat.
We have to get better at being able to talk to people about this.
Mhm.
Trust me. I live in a county where Matt Hall hails from,
Yeah.
and of course I have
Yeah.
people that want to talk about him all the
Sure.
time. But can we just be realistic that every county isn't equal?
No.
And if you live in a red county, a far red county, then you can't expect the same votes out of Kathy, out of Matt, out of anybody else that lives in a closer, like a 50-50 or a minus whatever it is. It's unrealistic. And let's say that we know that there's certain topics that each one of those areas holds in their heart, whether it be like school shooting or things like that. People take a vote at times because they know what their constituents are expecting of them. And again, Kathy, we were just in a minority situation
Yes,
where
right.
her taking that vote didn't make us lose the vote.
That's
We
right.
already lost it.
She beat her opponent pretty good too. In a -2 district, they wanted to often compare. Well, Jamie Thompson's district or Jim DeSantis' district, and look how Jim DeSantis votes. Well, we all love Jim DeSantis. We do. We wish all state reps could be Jim DeSantis, and he's in a similar district. I think Jim DeSantis would lose in this district.
Mm-hmm.
I would lose in this district. Sometimes you have the right person for the job. And-
And you got to remember one important thing that I think is short-sighted is that, okay, so her voting record isn't fantastic, but out of 5, let's say she votes something you agree on 3 times,
Yeah.
and 2 times you disagree, but guess what? If you would have elected that Democrat,
Right.
it would have all 5 times.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Kelly, before we cut you loose, I want to talk
Yeah.
about state committee. I tune in most Sundays to Rescue Michigan, and Patty P was on with Adam, of course, last night. And at the end of the stream, Patty indicated that she talked about the mess of the last state committee meeting on Zoom. I jumped on at 11:30. I said, the hell with this, and I'm not a voting member, so I bailed out. And come to find out, you guys are there until, 3 in the morning or something. Spoke to Hank Cho afterwards. I'm surprised Hank made it through that. He wakes up at 3, let alone stay up till 3.
Right.
He's a farmer. And basically nothing was settled. But I was surprised that Patty said, well, nothing was settled, and we don't know when the state convention's going to be. I was told by Todd Gilman that the administration's just set the date. That's March 21st and 22nd. Am I correct about that? Or is that still got to
No.
be decided by state committee?
Well, so the problem is that the venue isn't available. I can, and I don't know why they don't send out an email. The date, so our next county convention is actually January 30th.
Oh, see, you're telling me
So-
something I'm not even aware of here.
So our next county
I thought it was
convention-
March 5th.
Well, remember, we have to have a county convention before.
Right.
So our county convention is January 30th. And then our next state convention, which will be the district caucus the night before, is February 21st.
All right.
Mm.
So where I'm
And so-
confused here, but there's no venue for that. Are you saying, or
Well, they have the Huntington place, but
Right.
they couldn't schedule the normal dates that we would have normally had.
Okay. And then the
However,
22nd
so-
is the convention,
Well,
state convention at Huntington
correct.
Place.
And last year, because everybody knows, the infamous February 17th from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that was basically the same weekend, if you think about it. Going from this 2 years ago, the 17th, till this year, the 21st. Those are the dates that I have written down. And again, it was I told them they needed to send an email out to everybody confirming that, because like us, per our bylaws, we need to have the rules posted on our website 60 days before any
Right.
convention.
Oh,
Well,
geez.
clearly we don't have those rules posted on our website yet, for a reason, and it kind of throws us all out of whack with stuff like that. So yeah, January 30th.
My question
and-
here is really on the county convention date. I do not know anything about an end of January county convention. And my impression of that was March 5th. That was set in stone. That'd be a couple weeks before the district and state convention.
I don't know why. I can tell you that I remember from 2 years
An email would
ago-
be nice.
You have to clear
2
everything
years
up.
ago we sent the notice out during like Christmas, what I would consider Christmas vacation. So it had to be a similar time.
So
I could go
we
back
typically
and
don't have
look.
county
So-
conventions that far away from state conventions. It's usually 2 or 3 weeks before, not a month and a half. That's where I wonder here. We don't need to get deep into that. That just tells me something I got to figure out, or both of us need to figure out soon.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the date I have written down.
Okay.
And again,
Now
we need
there
to
is a
probably
state
verify.
there is a state committee meeting in person. Thank God, can't do Zooms no more. No. On the 24th of this month, correct?
No.
No, that'd be
No,
Christmas.
The 14th.
The 14th.
April.
The 14th. I'm riding up with
24th
Todd
is
Gilman.
Christmas Eve. Right.
Now, I do want to. We're in inside baseball here. All right.
Yep.
People that might not be familiar with how Michigan GOP operates, we convene precinct delegates, get together for a state convention, first a district caucus to figure out district seats. But the main one is the following day or whatever.
Yep.
We vote on state chair and co-chair. That usually they go together. It can be different, and then our vice chairs. The day before, it's an election for state committee members, which is important. My 10 years involved, I didn't pay attention to what was going on at the state level until the last 4 years, and let me tell you, who our state chair is extremely important. If we hadn't done, thankfully to you, Kelly, and many others, as brutal as it was, to remove Caramo and those problems that we had there, there's a high probability that Trump would not have won Michigan.
Absolutely. agree.
Absolutely. People can talk about Pete Hoekstra all day long, coming from the establishment end and this and that and another. Listen, the guy knew how to put together a team. Warren Carpenter, the list goes on and on. He put together a team of people that could to put a campaign together,
Right.
and win Michigan as well as we won Michigan. And I'm so thankful for that. People need to realize that team was put together in what, 9 months, Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was
And-
phenomenal. And if we had stayed the track that we were on, the word is that they would have ran the Trump campaign through Illinois,
Yes.
and we would have been just a district, a state probably lost.
Right.
Illinois was a state loss.
Right.
Well, you think about the money, right? And last year when the House how was that? So the NRSC,
Yeah.
I believe,
Yeah, I always forget it, but
when they gave the $260,000 to the state party, because that was a match program that had taken place the year before or 2 years before that. So it's like, if you give over here, then we'll give you over here. And they gave that money to the Karamo administration, and they said, we're going to use this money for whatever we see
instead
fit.
of on the campaign.
Right.
And they paid Karamo's salary with it. They did multiple things with that money that they weren't supposed to do.
Are you on the budget committee or no, Kelly?
Am I what?
Are you on the state budget committee? Okay.
No, I'm this. Nope.
Yeah.
So
well, there's been some
did,
revelations there. Woo.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Well, so they did multiple things with that money that they shouldn't have done. There's probably violations, FEC violations, and so forth. So just knowing what they did with that money, with the misappropriation of those funds, do you really think that the RNC and the Trump team would have trusted Karamo with $28 million?
Hell no.
Because that's the money that came through the state. And it's called pass-through money, right? So it comes through. We use our mail program because we have that key to where you get a discount on mail. And that was all passed through to us. They would have never trusted her to pass that money through with just seeing what she did with that $260,000. So we know our state would have been lost. I don't even think that Trump would have been able to win. The ground game we had here with Trump Force 47.
They wouldn't have even tried that hard.
Any of it. None of it would have been in place. Thankfully, HRCC, had the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because the state party wasn't getting the donations because HRCC was getting the donations. And thankful for your area, because Kathy got a lot of money from HRCC. And I think that money is not the devil, and that if we can't raise money and have money for campaigns, we will lose every single time.
Until a new system, whatever that is in place, the game that we play here, it comes down to money. Mm-hmm. It just is.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to Republicans encouraging people to vote early. On and on, and there was pushback from that, of course. And I used to tell them, listen, I don't like it too. We should all get on one day and vote. But the strategy here with the game, the rules that are in place, is we have to embrace this strategy, and it's the same strategy there. Money's the name of the game. Mm-hmm. And until that changes in a drastic way, and I do not have the answer to that, that's the name of the game. It really is.
100%.
Yep.
Without money, we don't win.
When you got leaders saying, well, money ain't important, what are you talking about? You got to scoop it up wherever you can get it. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
where.
100%. Look at you. If you had more money, I bet you'd have a bigger office. And if you had a bigger office, how you would be able to operate, but be able to do more things. The one thing about having the office that I have, any candidate can come in at any time and utilize it for a fundraiser.
So
a great thing.
Just this quick thing on offices. Over the years, especially during COVID when we struggled to fundraise, we had discussions about closing down the office. Many or most counties don't have an office. It's counties are Jackson's size or larger that do. But we've always came back to, and you know how it is when it's outside campaign season, things are slow.
Money dries up.
Things are slow, but it's still great outreach. And people, it's funny, they don't know where you're at until it's time to get Trump signs, and then they know where you're at.
Mm-hmm. And then they complain nonstop. Like where we're at, our office, we're in the basement. We can't find you. Why don't you have a better office? It's like, do you donate to the party? Are you actually members? If they couldn't get their Trump signs, these people were going to die. Yeah. That's what they acted like.
The outreach of having a location, no matter the size, listen, I do most of my work at home. Our secretary does most of her work at home. The treasurer, everybody does. But, I've been lucky that we've got volunteers that staff this office
Same.
5 days a week. it's amazing to me, and they'll we've got some Trump Force 47 shirts left, so we're trying to get foot traffic in here. Come on in and get a free shirt, whatever it takes to get them in the door. And you can always talk to a like-minded person. It's just good for business.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
We got to start wrapping it
one-
up, guys.
one
We're
more
about an
quick-
hour and a half in.
All right, one more
Yep.
quick question, Kelly.
Yep. Yes.
Has you have a new executive committee to some degree, correct?
Correct.
All right. But you guys haven't met yet to select a new chair? You're doing that in December?
Next week, next Tuesday.
Okay.
We have our executive committee.
So we don't
meeting.
know if you're going to be the next chair or not.
I mean, I don't know that anybody's challenging.
You're
me,
right. I
so,
went through that.
They didn't even come to our meeting 2 weeks ago. To the county convention. They didn't
Yeah.
even come. So
we
I don't think that maybe they're starting to die off.
we opted to meet immediately after the convention as the new executive committee and vote in our officers. Got off the plate. There was rumor prior to that. I might have a challenger. The vice chair might have a challenger and all that shit. But and so I wasn't all the way for it at first. I was like, no, let's wait till December to see the playing field. But as we approached convention, it was ironed out pretty decent. And we kept almost the same team. We did replace the vice chair, but it was without issues. And so that's settled in Jackson. But I know most counties are waiting.
Congrats.
Yeah, I guess so. It wasn't.
Right?
Kelly, you and I probably had this conversation a few months ago that myself and Vance Patrick and a few of us, we discussed and seriously considered not running for the position
Correct.
again.
Correct. It's a lot.
It is. Now, what's beneficial to me, I am recently retired, so I can put more effort
More
into
time,
it.
right.
And I think it was Vance that said, Russ, if Trump wins, wouldn't you like to take a victory lap? And the things that you've learned, Hank Cho, of all people, said to me, Russ, you had some successes, you had some failures, but I know you're smart enough to learn off them failures. So why not do it again? Hank's
Correct.
a two-term county chair and a two-term district chair. So hearing that from someone like Hank, it really resonated to me. I'm like, well, let's do it again.
Well, I feel like you're just getting momentum,
Yeah.
and now with Trump winning, we need to carry that momentum forward. And and I'm pretty excited with all that we can do.
I think so, too.
Quite frankly, so many of us have gotten to know each other. We bounce ideas off of each other. You and I talk, we text, and I feel like now that you actually know people and the working relationships that you have, we can only go up from here.
Yeah, I think so,
I'm
too.
With you.
Re-
Yep, I'm with
resources, communication. I'm the first chairman to make it in Jackson through a full term in 10 years.
Wow.
We would lose our chair midway through all that crap. So that says a lot. The team around
People
me
are tough.
Huh?
People are tough on chairs, but then when you go through what we just went through, 2
Bring it
years
on.
ago across the state, right? I mean,
We
they
won't
came
even
after
talk
us with
about your embattlement
pitchforks.
because we don't have time, but it's probably a good thing that we didn't bring it up today.
Correct.
All right,
That's
we do got to get out of here,
That's right.
Kelly. It's been a long
Yep.
string, and I told you would probably end up being more than 45 minutes with us. But I'm happy we
know.
went down the school board issue.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, so I'm glad that's the conversation that we had.
We'll have you back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, the
That's-
guys say you're
that's
coming back.
Thanks again.
Actually, where I'm the most passionate about is our students, our kids, the schools. I've spoken at school board meetings. So many times they called me the frequent flyer. And I research it before I speak so that when I'm actually speaking, I can talk on something educated.
I research, but I wing it. I don't write things down. I'll research it, but
write it
I go
down.
up and wing it. So I'm one of them guys.
I write it all down.
All right, let's get out of here. I do got some
Yeah.
issues to talk about. Thank you very much,
Yes,
Kelly.
thank you, Kelly.
Thank
We'll
you
talk.
again,
By the
Kelly.
way, we're waiting for McGraw to get back from Florida to meet for lunch, so we need to arrange that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
All
good,
right.
Russ.
Thank you, Kelly.
Nice to meet you guys. Thanks.
You do.
Yep.
That was pretty cool, guys.
Yeah, that was a good trip. She was a fun one to have, definitely. Hey, before he gets started on this stuff, guys, make sure you follow this channel, like this video, check out everybody in the description. We got Kix's information down in the description too. Go check out his page, and yeah, take it away.
I like this team, guys.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Everybody know the Jackson GOP website?
JXNGOP.org.
JXNGOP.org. Go there. And there's a reason why you should go there. You'll find out about our Under the Oak speaker series that is scheduled for the 12th of this month. We have finally finalized a guest. We're going to have Shane Trejo from the Grand New Party with the Precinct Action Caucus. And what that is it teaches new or old precinct delegates how to be a better precinct delegate and basically how to be an activist in your precinct or in your community. So go to jxngop.org. Kix is going to get that on the website so that you can register. Kix is now in charge of jxngop.org.
Right.
There could be a lot of changes on that, but for the better.
Yeah, be looking forward to that. Some updated stuff, maybe some ways for you guys to help us out here in the county.
Awesome. And I'm just going to let Kix and Dave Jones do their thing with it. That is not my department. As long as we get the message out and we can create some action.
Create some buzz.
So this Friday is the Grand New Party Christmas party at Fozzie Sports Bar in Jackson. This has become an annual event. The Grand New Party Pack is a statewide pack. They have events around the state, but we've been doing the Christmas party every year right here in Jackson. And it isn't one of those regular old boring Republican Party get-togethers. This one's a fun one. We just found out, we thought there'd be a DJ. There's a live classic rock band. It's in a cool bar
Which
here
band
in
is it?
Jackson.
Do we know?
Huh?
Do you know which band it is?
Which band is it?
You know, I knew it and forgot now.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Jackson
Jackson has some
Wait,
great
are you
ones.
saying there's no karaoke now?
There is no karaoke,
All right.
and I got to call them and kind of bitch at them because they told me there would be, but I'm cool with a live band.
You were going to get up there and sing, I know.
Me and the wife sing a Mean Man in the Box.
There you go.
We sing a Mean Man in the Box.
I've been known to do Eminem.
Oh,
I know. Yep, that's usually my go-to.
By the way, I got to sell some fences, so look up on Facebook, Mock Fencing More.
Do it.
That's how Russ gets his play money that Mrs. Russ doesn't know about. Mock Fencing More. We can do all kinds of fencing all winter long. The winter doesn't
And more.
hold us up. And more.
Right. And more.
And more.
And if you like custom shoes, Christmas is coming up. Check out my link.
God damn, I'm gonna have to buy some shoes.
And hit me up. I'm getting ready
was gonna
to
buy
do
you
a
some for
couple of
Christmas.
pair of shoes. I'm getting ready to do some shoes for a rugby player who plays nationally.
People play rugby still?
Yeah.
No.
I'm about to knock out some cleats
Some
for him. And I got
rugby.
some people down in Tennessee that just hit me up, so you can be next. Just reach out to me.
And I don't do anything cool like that. So
Also this Friday. So the Grand New Party Pack Christmas party starts, I think at 7 or 8. But prior to that, here at the Commonwealth Center, State Representative Jim DeSanta belongs to an organization called Faith, Family, and Freedom, and he is holding a path forward for constitutional conservatives. Basically, we're going to talk about maybe a candidate for governor, Secretary of State, and what's the other one? Attorney General.
Attorney General.
So that's this Friday, guys. The Faith, Family, and Freedom event is free. You just show up at the Commonwealth Center, and the signs will tell you where to go. 5:30, the doors open. Right after that, you run over to Fozzie Sports Bar here in Jackson, and just Google Fozzie's. You'll find it, and we'll have a fun getting it in Christmas party.
So it's going to be like a great night.
I think so.
I mean, across the board, right?
I'm looking forward to it.
Talk
I
about
really
the
am.
future of the state, and then go party.
Kix is going to be there. Kevin's talking about be there, but he won't.
yeah, I won't make it. Let's be honest. I was actually just thinking, I'm like, that's this Friday. Nah, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah, I got things to do.
Yeah, I got other important things.
And other than that, I don't have nothing to talk about. There's more, but we ain't got time.
Make sure you hit that follow, smash the like, drop a comment, but above all else, share the video out on all of your social media platforms.
It's
We
easy.
need your help to grow this
I've been
channel.
bitching about this for several years in the Jackson GOP. You know how easy it is to push share? People
Yeah.
are like allergic to it sometimes.
Absolutely.
You just push share.
And
there's just a button you push, and it goes to your page.
I personally want to thank everybody who has been through with this entire hour and a half with us.
It was great.
Yeah, that was a long
Thanks,
one.
Kicks. Thanks,
we
Kevin.
had about, well, at one point we had 15. We're sitting at 8 right now.
Did we have
And
15?
If nobody has told you how amazing you are, I'm going to do it.
Oh, you are amazing.
You are amazing
Except for that one
riding
guy.
along with
Yeah.
us in this car.
There's
and I
somebody.
do appreciate
There's
it.
someone in there that ain't
Yeah,
amazing.
that guy knows who he is.
But thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent. Yeah, guys, I don't have anything else either. I think everything's down in the description if you want any links to anything we've talked about. Other than that, I need to get that. Oh no, JXN GOP. You can sign up for the GNP party. Right?
Go to
Yes.
you go to gnppac.com.
I think that's down there too.
And pre-register for $20. If you show up at the door, they claim they're going to charge $30. So you're going to want to pre-register.
And it's also an event to Toys for Tots, right?
Yeah, you bring a toy
bring a
for
gift.
The money is for the Grand New Party to find good Republican candidates in the future. It's a
Absolutely.
pack. So
Well, I guess
do it.
until next Monday, we don't. No guests signed up yet.
You know,
No.
maybe it should be just the three of us. Who knows?
I don't know.
We'll talk about it.
We'll be here in this tiny little room having fun. So, guys, until next time, have a good one, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, Kelly Sackett.
Bye.